Hello and welcome. Thank you for being here and investing your time in improving your English and yourself. The trip to Japan that year started like a normal morning, but it became a memory that I still remember very clearly. Even now, when I think about it, I feel a gentle and peaceful feeling in my heart. My family had planned this trip for a long time. It was not a sudden decision. We saved money, made plans, and searched for information carefully. In my mind, Japan felt both strange and familiar. I had watched many videos and read many articles, so I felt like I already knew this place even though I had never been there. On the day we left, the airport was very crowded. My father kept checking the luggage again and again. My mother worried about the documents. I stood quietly in a corner, watching airplanes take off, and wondered if this trip would be like what I imagined. The flight was long, but I could not sleep. I was too excited. When the planes started to land, I looked out of the window and saw small houses and clean roads. Everything looked very different from my country, but also very peaceful. When we arrived, the first thing I noticed was the order. There was no noise, no pushing. People moved quickly but calmly. Everyone had their own pace, but somehow everything worked together perfectly. We took a train to the hotel. It was my first time riding a train in Japan. I sat by the window and watched the view pass by like a movie. Small houses, convenience stores, quiet streets. Everything looked simple but beautiful. The hotel was not big, but very clean and organized. Everything was in the right place. My mother kept saying it was cleaner than our home. My father was interested in the automatic systems in the room. As for me, I stood by the window looking at people outside and wondered about their lives. On the first day, we did not go far. We just walked around the neighborhood. But those simple moments helped me understand Japan more clearly. Not the famous places, but the small details. An old woman stood in front of her shop and bowed with a kind smile. A group of students walked home, laughing together. A store worker helped a foreign customer patiently. These things may be normal in other places, but here they felt very sincere. The next day, we started visiting famous places. We went to an old temple. The road to the temple was covered with tall trees. Sunlight came through the leaves and made beautiful patterns on the ground. It was so quiet that I could hear my own footsteps. When I walked through the gate, I felt like I entered another world. Everything became slower. People spoke softly and moved gently. My father prayed. My mother looked around quietly. I did not pray. I just stood there, took a deep breath, and felt calm. In the following days, we visited many places: busy shopping streets, traditional markets, and small restaurants hidden in alleys. Each place had its own story and feeling. One evening, we went to a small ramen shop. There were only a few seats, and the chef stood in front of us cooking. When he placed a bowl of ramen in front of me, I saw the hot steam and smelled a rich flavor. I took a bite, and at that moment, I understood why people wait in long lines for ramen. It was not only because of the taste, it was because of the care and effort of the chef. Every detail was made with attention. But the most memorable moment was not the food or the famous places. It was a very simple afternoon. That day, we stayed near the hotel and went to a small park. The weather was cool and the leaves were changing color. My mother and I sat on a bench while my father went to buy drinks. Around us, other families were enjoying the afternoon. Children were playing, adults were talking. No one was in a hurry. Everything felt natural and peaceful. My mother looked at me and asked, "How do you feel about this trip?" I did not answer immediately. I looked at the falling leaves and the people around me, then said, "I feel very calm." She smiled and said nothing. At that moment, I realized that this trip was not only about visiting a new place, it was also a chance to understand myself better. In daily life, we are always busy and always chasing something, but here I learned how to stop and just feel. The last days passed very quickly. Before leaving, I walked again on the street near the hotel. Everything was the same, but I felt different. This time, I was no longer a stranger. I felt like a small part of this place, even if for a short time. On the flight back, I finally slept, not because I was tired, but because my heart felt full. I was not excited like before, but I felt peaceful. The trip to Japan ended, but its meaning stayed with me. It changed how I see the world and how I feel about life. Sometimes on very normal days, I still remember that afternoon in the park when I sat next to my mother and said I felt calm. Maybe that is the most valuable thing from the trip. Not the photos, not the souvenirs, but a feeling that I will carry with me for a long time, maybe for my whole life.